Beautiful. And what I think I understood from your blog post, right? So you are stepping into full life cycling of what? Sensing, data mining, iterations, improvements that each organization has to embrace, right? The concept is not new. It's not,
No,
right?
no.
But talk to me, please, about where AI in this iteration cycle, because for some organizations, taking AI project on is a big investment, and you think this is like kind of standalone big project or shiny initiative I'm gonna run in my organization here. So where is this iterative kind of day-to-day approach, which of course drives quality of people and time investment and frankly technology innovation there. So how does it all work together?
Well, the standard cycle is, observe, orient, decide, and act. That's the OODA cycle.
Been around for a
Um,
little while. Yep, yep.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with the OODA cycle, as I see it, is it's more, here's what's happening, let's find the patterns, let's make a decision and take an action. Well, and that's good, and you iterate.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is if you just follow the data instead of saying, look, these are the goals we have, these are the decisions we have to make, and do it from a end game business outcome or organizational outcome perspective, it's better. So just doing that iterative cycle to do the iterative cycle to learn and get better, well, that's good, but ideally it's driven by decisions and goals. And AI will eventually handle some of that on its own. So it could be unsupervised. And because it could be unsupervised, we're going to see the notion of guardrails or constraints enter into this. So as something's going through a cycle, the AI bots or agents, whatever you want to call them, I think the industry has decided bots rather than agents. As they go through the cycle, there's certain boundaries you can't cross. There's certain things that need to be expressed to management saying, hey, look, we didn't think about this scenario. I have to make a decision, get back to me. Hopefully, if you put in constraints and guidelines that make sense, you won't have to wait for that human intervention. So this cycle is going to move faster. It's going to become more goal-oriented instead of flow-oriented or iterative feedback cycle-oriented. All those things are still there, but it's the perspective of, is it input, process, take action, loop back through, or is it, here's what we want for outcomes, let's look at that cycle and see how we can get closer to those outcomes. And I think that's the way forward, the goal-driven approach.
Beautiful. And where sense and understand in this kind of equation? Okay, so how do you think this will be inheriting what we had in 2019, right? And what's new on that horizon in 2020?
Well, the sense and respond part is I'm looking for signals and events that are interesting or I know ahead of time are a threat or an opportunity. And it's going to move to compound events and signals to look for patterns. And so as we include AI, we're going to get more patterns and less events. So it'll be smart enough to know what the patterns are. And of course, some algorithms can do this, but AI does it better. And so the notion of sense and respond and looking inside my normal set of contexts is going to become more pattern centric. The other thing that's going to happen is it's going to go outside of the normal context to say what's happening in nearby neighborhoods, what's happening in this world, and do they meet? So for instance, there's the medical world and there's the underwriting world in the example that I used. And we could sense events and patterns in the medical world. We could sense events and patterns in the work and the policies that were coming in, but we had to converge those two worlds together. So now there were new contexts as well. So the sense and respond will do a much better job within the context you normally operate. And it'll also include contexts that you haven't thought of. And this gets into that idea of asking for more data again, backdooring it.
An interesting point, Nikhil, question I have, how automation will play on both sides, because you mentioned underwriting world, right? Full of knowledge, okay, the critical data points, right? And you use, let's say, doctor or expert world, right? So where is automation plus AI in both scenarios?
Well, in the underwriting world, the automation is around making the decision faster and augmenting the people to make sure that that's happening. In the medical side, it's more about how can I go outside and learn from knowledge. So I want to check what other doctors are looking at. I want to look at what the legal implications of medical decisions are. It's a little bit more knowledge heavy rather than data heavy. But AI is really good at converging worlds and taking a look at what they do. And so algorithms are good at that too, but AI adds some extra sauce in that it can ask for extra data. People aren't talking about this, but AI can go through logic forward and backwards. So it can say step A, step B, step C. It can also say, here's my outcome. What steps should I take? And what new data do I need? And so if you take the underwriting world, it's more that first scenario. If you take the medical world, it's more the second scenario.